Okay, so what if everything our culture has been telling us about beauty is, well, just wrong? Today, we're going to dive into this incredible 400-year-old poem by John Donne. And trust me, it makes this radical case for a totally different kind of beauty, one that just flips our modern obsession with youth right on its head. So, right out of the gate, the poem just drops this bombshell. Donne doesn't, gently lead us into his argument. Nope. He just states it like it's a fact. He's saying that the beauty of youth, that spring and summer phase of life, it just doesn't hold a candle to the incredible grace he's seen in a mature, what he calls an autumnal face. All right, so our first section, a revolutionary idea of beauty. And believe me, this is way more than just a nice compliment. What Donne is doing here is building a whole philosophical case, an argument for why the elegance that comes with maturity isn't just different from youthful beauty, but why it's actually, better.
And this is really the key to the whole thing. For Donne, autumnal has nothing to do with decay or decline. Not at all. He sees it as a kind of perfection, a beauty that didn't just pop up overnight. It's a beauty that's been earned, one that's been refined and shaped by time and experience.
I love this line because the metaphor just nails his idea. He's like, sure, were her early years a golden age? Yeah, you bet, but that was like raw gold. Now, she's gold oft-tried, gold that's been through the fire, tested and purified. That process makes it stronger, more valuable. And get this, it's not old, it's ever new. What a concept. Okay, section 2, youth's force versus age's grace. See, Donne isn't just praising maturity here. He's also taking a hard look at youthful attraction. And he sets up this really stark contrast between the two. And whoa, the language he uses here is intense, to say the least. Look at how he describes youthful beauty. It forces our love. It's a rape. It enrages blood. It's violent. It's aggressive. But then you look at the other side. Autumnal beauty, it doesn't force anything. It counsels. It persuades. It doesn't demand your love. It earns reverence and brings this calm, total delight. It's a completely different experience. Then he throws this number at us, 50. His point is, hey, if we value things that take a long time to create, like fine wine or a masterpiece, then this mature beauty is the ultimate prize. It's something that's been 50 years encompassing, he says, a treasure that literally takes a lifetime to build. All right, on to section 3, where love builds its home. So if youthful beauty is just, say, a temporary stop, like an inn where love might stay for a night, Donne asks this much bigger question. Where does love actually decide to settle down for good? Where does it build its permanent home? I mean, he doesn't shy away from the obvious signs of aging, right? He tackles wrinkles head on. But instead of seeing them as these sad symbols of decay or death, he does something amazing. He completely reframes what they mean in this really beautiful and totally unexpected way. Okay, so let's follow his logic here, step by step. First, he says, don't call these wrinkles graves. Then he says, okay, fine, maybe they are graves, but if they are, they're love's graves, because if love isn't here, it's nowhere. But then, and this is the big twist, he says love isn't actually dead here. Instead, love is building a tomb. And you got to remember, back then, a tomb wasn't just a place for the dead, it was a grand monument, something you build to honor and celebrate something amazing and timeless. And this right here, this is pretty much the punchline of the entire poem. He's saying, sure, love might travel around, it might visit other places, it sojourns with the young, but its permanent address, its forever home, its standing house, it's right here, in the autumnal face. This is where love truly lives. Now, let's get into section 4, the autumnal, not the antique. Because hold on, Donne is being super precise here. He's not just giving a blanket praise for old age. No, he draws a very, very sharp line between what he calls the graceful autumn and the decay of, well, deep winter. And he's not subtle about it. He gives us a direct command. But name not winter faces. He's telling us, point blank, do not confuse the kind of beauty I'm talking about with this. They are two completely different things, and he wants nothing to do with the latter. And man, he uses some pretty shocking, almost grotesque imagery to make his point. He talks about mouths that are like holes and teeth scattered all over. This, he says, isn't the graceful beauty of age. This is what he calls the antique, or living death's heads. It's decay, and it's definitely not what he's celebrating. But then, he says something really interesting. He says, I hate extremes. But if he were forced to choose between the two poles, the
the beginning and the end of life, he'd still rather spend his day with the mature, what he calls the tombs, than with the super young, the cradles.
So that brings us to our final section, a journey down the hill. Okay, so Donne has built his entire case. He's drawn all these careful lines. How does he wrap it all up? Well, he ends with this very personal resolution. He tells us exactly what kind of life and what kind of love he's going to choose for himself from now on.
And here's his choice. He hopes his love will descend and journey down the hill. Now, this isn't a bad thing, like a fall. It's a graceful, calm movement, kind of like a setting sun. He's saying he's done with the frantic, breathless chase, that panting after growing beauties that's all about pursuing youth.
And the whole poem lands on this final, really beautiful, peaceful image. Life isn't about fighting the current anymore. Instead, he says, I shall ebb on. He's just going to move gently with the tide, along with everyone else who is also heading homeward. It just leaves you with this incredible sense of acceptance, of peace, and of companionship. So, in the end, this 400-year-old poem is really a challenge for us, right here, right now. It's asking us to look past that flashy, fleeting appeal of youth and to really, truly see the deep, refined beauty of autumn. And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What kind of autumnal grace might we be overlooking in our own lives today?